Hello, this is Evan Brain. Welcome back. Today we're chatting about the top 13 plus root causes of chronic fatigue. I've dealt with clients as young as 2, as old as 85, and across that entire spectrum of age ranges, I've seen chronic fatigue in 6-year-old kids and 8-year-old kids, which is alarming. Like, these are true diagnoses that doctors are giving children. You know, you've probably seen the statistic already that our children, the current generation's children, have a less life expectancy than us and than you, which is just alarming. And so we've got to figure out what in the world's going on and how can we approach and address this and get to the root cause. There's probably other things that I'm not going to have time to mention today. I want to keep this succinct but clear and actionable as much as possible in terms of helping you to investigate these. So chronic fatigue, basically what this is characterized by conventional doctors. Sometimes there's depression along with it, but it's basically unrelenting fatigue. You're not refreshed when you wake up. You wake up, you're very groggy. You just never fully hit that maximum battery charge of your body. You just never feel rested, chronically struggling to get through the day. Some people have to quit their job or they lose their job due to the impairment from the fatigue. So this is not situational fatigue, like you had a lot of stress and then all of a sudden you're tired. No, this is unrelenting fatigue that's at a continuous rate. All right, so number one is going to be Epstein. Now, let me make a quick disclaimer. I know you could just read these things and then leave the video, but let me explain these because it's going to make more sense if you just let me explain them than just look at them and then you're done. All right, so bear with me, hold on. All right, so Epstein-Barr, mono, and stealth infections, this is big. Mono, you've probably heard it, the kissing disease, right? But Epstein-Barr is going to be something you're going to find in almost everyone with chronic fatigue. You can test for it as there's acute phases, but there's also a delayed response. So you can look for IgA, you can look for IgG, you can look for IgM. With your conventional doc, have them run the blood markers for Epstein-Barr to see if you've got an active or a previously active infection. That can be a big trigger for chronic fatigue and or fibromyalgia, which often goes along with the chronic fatigue. Most of the time it's both of these together. Now, a lot of times people may have chronic fatigue, but they actually get misdiagnosed and it actually could be Lyme disease and or the co-infections that come with it. So you've got mycoplasma pneumonia, which is a pretty big one that also causes joint pain. So if it's like a fibro case, a chronic fatigue case, and there's joint pain, especially if the joint pain migrates, that makes me think it's Lyme or a co-infection like mycoplasma. So you've got to get that investigated and get that treated holistically. You can do this without antibiotics, I promise. Number 3, heavy metals, lead, cadmium, arsenic, mercury. There's several different heavy metals that are going to affect the brain, they're going to affect the thyroid. Basically, you've got to get the metals out. You can measure them first, but you've got to get them out. It's not a matter of are you metal toxic, it's how metal toxic are you. The most toxic people I've seen are people who either had a lot of seafood in their diet, especially tuna, because it's a giant fish. I don't know if you've ever seen an actual tuna. It's a gigantic fish. It accumulates a lot of mercury from the environment as it goes up the food chain, mainly from coal power plants. When the pollution lands up in the ocean, it ends up in the small creatures, medium, large, biggest. Tuna's a big fish, so if you eat a lot of tuna, definitely going to have some mercury issues. And then also people with the silver fillings, which are about 50% mercury. If you go and you get those drilled out by not using a biological dentist, you're in big trouble. You're going to have heavy metal issues. Next, we've got anemias. And then lastly, regarding heavy metals, you've got people that live in urban areas too, like Los Angeles, New York City, San Francisco. A lot of these places, these are the highest levels of metals I've ever seen in my clients, people who live in the most urban areas. Likely due to car pollution is my guess, coming out of the tailpipe, sitting on the 405 traffic. All right, so you've got anemias. You've got B12 anemias, you've got iron anemias. Definitely want to look at your B12, you want to look at your ferritin, you want to look at your iron and your iron saturation. Make sure you're in the reference range, preferably a functional range, not just a conventional range. Next, you've got mitochondrial dysfunction. Now, heavy metals can affect mitochondria. These infections can affect it. Anemias can affect it. Toxins can affect it, like glyphosate. If you're not eating 100% organic at your house, I don't know what you're doing, because you have to get the glyphosate, the Roundup, out of your life, out of your produce, out of your food, out of your garage. I had a neighbor who was spraying Roundup, which is glyphosate, and they had flip-flops on. And they were just spraying their yard. It's like, good Lord, that's highly damaging to the water table, for one, as that seeps into the groundwater, but two, glyphosate damages mitochondria. So that's a big no-no. That ties into toxicity. I think I've already hit that enough. GI issues, so this is parasitic infections, which is 1 in every 3 people at least has parasites. Bacterial infections like SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, that's 2 out of every 3 people. And then Candida, that's 2.5 out of every 3. All these things could relate to the chronic fatigue case. Then we go over here, we've got cortisol and adrenal issues. You can check my videos out on adrenals. I've covered that extensively. But if you've got chronically suppressed or elevated cortisol, believe it or not, if you've got high cortisol, chronic fatigue. If you've got low cortisol, chronic fatigue. Same thing. Either way, in that dysfunctional state, you can have the symptom. Thyroid issues, including Hashimoto's, which is autoimmunity. Once again, I'll refer you to my Hashimoto's video for that. Leaky gut, I'll refer you to a video on IBS, but this kind of IBS picture ties into the gut issue. So parasites, bacterial overgrowth, etc. Those are all going to be causing the leaky gut, the permeability. Especially eating gluten and other grains, you're going to separate those tight junctions, allowing food and other toxins to get into your bloodstream, therefore triggering chronic fatigue. Next, you've got the food sensitivity piece, which I just hit on. Get the dairy, get the gluten, get the soy, get the peanuts, get the crap out of the diet. Go on an autoimmune diet for 30 days, and you may notice an improvement. Next, you've got a vegan diet. That's a big issue, because typically the anemias that surface with a vegan diet, maybe you can do a vegan diet right, but it's very hard, and typically you've got to use supplements like pea protein or other sorts of sources like that to try to replenish the things you're missing out on when you're not doing high quality organic animal products. Then you've got malabsorption, which really is tied into leaky gut and food sensitivities, and tied into thyroid issues if your metabolism's not working, and it's tied into gut issues. And then of course toxicity happens if you're not digesting well. Then you're getting anemias, and then you see what I mean? It's all connected. None of this is separate. So if you're not working with a functional medicine practitioner that's addressing all of these things together, your results are likely going to be limited. Now, could you spend all your time just focusing on this and just taking a ton of antibiotics to try to kill off the Lyme and the co-infections? Yes, but your results are going to be pretty limited. Listen to the work of Dr. Klinghardt and what he's saying about Lyme. He's telling people that it makes him sick that all these doctors out there are just killing with the Lyme, trying to get people better. It's more of a coexistence that has to happen with these infections. I'll save that conversation for a future video. But here's the top 13. I hope this was helpful. If you'd like to reach out and get help with this issue, you can just click on screen, schedule a call with me. I would love to chat with you about your goals, talk about some functional medicine testing, how we can get to the root of this thing, get you feeling better, most importantly. This is Evan Brand. Take care. Bye-bye.